Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you an action drama film, Escape from MOGADISHU. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a history recall during the year 1987, when the Korean government dispatched diplomats to Mogadishu, Somalia. North and South Korea battled on whoever won a seat in the UN, hoping to be favored by the Somalia government since Africa had the most UN vote rights during that time. Han, a South Korean ambassador, poses with National University of Somalia students for a photo op showcasing the South Korean aid for NUS progress in technology research. Meanwhile, the South Korean counselor arrives at Mogadishu International Airport, waiting to deliver a briefcase to Han. Shortly, Han and the South Korean secretary arrive, checking the briefcase's contents and return to their vehicle on the way to the presidential palace, while South Korean counselor rides a cab to travel to the South Korean embassy. Unfortunately, rebels raid Han's car, stealing the briefcase, shooting their car's tire to leave them stranded on the highway, and checks on their local driver, who's wounded on the head. Han asks the driver to wait for help. Afterward, Han and South Korean secretary run to the palace. They arrive almost breathless, and South Korean secretary quickly loses his energy due to diabetes, and asks if he needs urgent insulin intake, which South Korean secretary assures he's okay and eats candy. Upon entering, the palace staff informs Han that their meeting with the president is cancelled due to being 15 minutes late. Han questions the palace staff for allotting only 15 minutes for them. Suddenly, Han realizes the next meeting is with North Korea upon seeing North Korean ambassador Rin with North Korean counselor escorted by palace staff. At sunset, North Korean counselor visits a slum giving food and school materials for the children, and later exposing he's responsible for ordering the rebels to steal the briefcase from South Korea. Late that night at the North Korean embassy, Rim inspects the briefcase's contents, commenting that sabotaging the South Korean appointment is pointless while injecting himself with insulin. Meanwhile, Han's wife gives the driver some herbal medicines for his wound and food for his family in the South Korean embassy. Upstairs, Han's confident that the North Koreans stole the briefcase. Han then answers a call from their minister for an update, pretending he's nearby a construction site to end the call quickly, because he cannot allow their minister to learn of their failed meeting with the president. Later, South Korean counselor confesses he bribed a journalist to publish photos of rebels with firearms manufactured by North Korea, but Han doubts the credibility, but South Korean counselor reasons it doesn't matter when Africa is on the verge of war. Once the news spreads, they believe the president will vote on the South Korean side. The following day, Han meets with Somalia foreign minister at a hotel's restaurant. During the meeting, Somalia foreign minister barely cared about the possible war, bribing Han for the guaranteed Somalia vote in South Korean UN membership. Afterward, Han contemplates the offer, but South Korean counselor opposes, saying they cannot simply use their operation fund. Outside, Somalia foreign minister talks to Rim in the hotel's courtyard before leaving, and catches them and quickly confronts Rim about their sabotages in South Korea, but Rim refutes, saying it's them who are spreading fake news about North Korea selling weapons to rebels. They argue about being diplomatic, but they do dirty tricks against each other. Rim emphasizes their long service to Africa than the South Koreans and says, "Quit selling out your compatriots for the sake of the UN membership." Suddenly, bombs and gunshots erupt on the hotel's gates. Civilians riding overtake as guards retaliate, demanding to release their Islamic leaders. Civilians throw smoke bombs in the courtyard, and Rim, Han, and the counselors immediately take shelter in the hotel. That night in the South Korean embassy, Han's wife and the group pray for their safety. Amidst praying, they check on the ringing doorbell. They find the local driver bloodied on the ground, and South Korean secretary carries him to their room. Upon cleaning him, they discover the driver is a rebel through his handkerchief. On the South Korean embassy's gate, a Somalia police unit asks to inspect the South Korean embassy, looking for one of the riot instigators. Han and South Korean counselor arrive on time, reminding the authoritative cop that the police cannot simply enter Korean government land, and threatens the police unit that he'll call the police chief if they continue bothering them. The authoritative cop then asks for an ID, and Han presents his. Afterward, the police unit leaves, and South Korean secretary confesses the driver's real identity. The moment they visit him in the room, he's gone. Meanwhile, the driver flees, but the police catch him, hitting his head too hard. The driver dies on the road while the police abandon him. Civilians protest the following day, demanding the president's resignation and ending his dictatorship, while the general of the United Somali Congress distributes facts to all embassies containing the truth. The president's regime used the embassy's help to suppress Somalians' rights. They believe ousting the president is removing an immoral and corrupt government. It's in the embassy's choice to determine if they're Somalians' foe or friend. Meanwhile, South Korean counselor is stuck in traffic caused by turmoil on the road. It's civilians fighting over food and police beating up innocent citizens. A guard checks his ID and lets him pass. Eventually, Han sees him from the traffic, explaining the travel agency, banks and offices are closed, and even Somalia foreign minister fled the country. The two decide to return to their embassy. Civilians march the road, protesting and charging attacks against the police. They pass by the Korean embassies, throwing stones and inflaming their front buildings. Simultaneously occurring, South Korea and North Korean staff in their respective embassy burn all the documents related to the Somalia government. All their telephones and connections are cut, leaving them contactless outside. South Korean counselor suggests South Korean staff use a tape from the community function and play it on speaker for the Somalian to know their friends. Momentarily, the Somalia military arrives in tanks, shooting down every civilian on the road. The aftermath left both North Korea and South Korea embassies scarred. That night, both embassies listened to the USC through radios, announcing, "The general will reward whoever catches or report the president and his officers, and anyone who desires safety and protection can surrender to us now." Afterward, South Korea counselor clarifies what's happening outside is a civilian uprising and not a civil war because rebels are still not involved. Right now, they're stranded and have no contact with Seoul. Later, South Korean counselor and the translator visit the police station, and the authoritative cop from last time entertains them. South Korean counselor asks for high-ranking officers, but the authoritative cop says they are busy. He even adds Somalia is under a national emergency, therefore their diplomatic privileges don't apply. So South Korea counselor faces the authoritative cop, shouting he has no authority to disrespect him. The authoritative cop suddenly presses his gun onto South Korean counselor's forehead, giving a warning. The South Korean counselor spots the commissioner watching on the balcony and asks the translator to translate his message. He presses his car's honk, shouting that he's the South Korean counselor and comes to deliver an official embassy message. The authoritative cop strikes his head, but the counselor even assists in holding the gun to his forehead, daring the authoritative cop to shoot him. The counselor threatens the authoritative cop about having connections with the Somalia commissioner. Somalia police are in little, and if rebels overrun the embassies, it implies no extra fund for the officers to feed their families. Ultimately, the counselor successfully convinces him to give them police protection. On December 30, 1990, the Mogadishu rebels overrun the city, distributing firearms to everyone, hunting all the police and military, and placing them in the middle of the road for public execution. In the airport, tourists wait for an evacuation plane. South Korean staff attempt to contact the Korean embassy in Kenya, but they can't. Later, the Somalia government locked down all airports unless other countries deliver their planes to retrieve their people. Meanwhile, RIM and North Korean staff have nothing left to survive in the North Korean embassy. The defense chief operating travel passes fled the city, but North Korean counselor assures his informants will retrieve some for them. North Korean counselor eventually meets his informant, the rebel leader he ordered to steal the briefcase before. Unfortunately, the rebel leader betrays him, looting on what's left in the North Korean embassy, including RIM's medicines. Children are partaking in the raid too, holding firearms bigger than them. North Korean counselor attempts an attack on rebels, but ends up getting beaten. The rebel leader stops his brothers, and before leaving, he warns the North Korean counselor to leave soon, or else his brothers will come for them. They travel to the China embassy only to see it's raided. Then they plan the airport, but they have children with them, making it impossible to achieve. Suddenly, children rebel barricade them, pointing their guns, imitating rattling noise. North Korean children know what rebel children are doing, so they pretend they got shot dead and North Korean staff follow. The rebel children suddenly fire the ceiling to scare them and laugh while running away. North Korean staff immediately leave and stumble upon the South Korean embassy guarded by police. RIM's purpose for asking help from the South Korean embassy is for the sake of survival, but North Korean counselor assumes he's planning to convert. RIM warns him never to question his idea if there are no other options. Meanwhile, South Korean staff hear gunshots caused by the police. The counselor and Han check the balcony to see the commotion. The two recognize RIM and North Korean counselor, asking their purpose for coming. RIM shares what happened to them earlier, but South Korean counselor asks them to leave. RIM then shows the women and children with them, causing North Korean counselor to be mad because he knows South Korean counselor is making them beg. Han himself sends them away, but South Korean counselor convinces him to save the children. Suddenly, rebels spot them, shooting from the ground. North Korean staff immediately hide, while the police retaliate against rebels. Eventually, rebels leave alone, and South Korean counselor and Han meet with RIM at the gate to make them go. But RIM appeals to save the children, saying they have nowhere to go. Eventually, Han allows North Korean staff inside, getting their luggage, ID, and body checks upon entering. Unfortunately, the police guarding them demands more money because there are too many people now, so South Korean counselor pays them again. Inside, they gather around the table for a meal. North Korean staff only sit in fear of being poisoned, but Han exchanges rice with Rim and eat it, implying it's clean. Shortly, everyone eats their meal. South Korean counselor then leaves, secretly capturing a photo of both the North and South Korean staff. Later, in a private room, Rim expresses thanks to Han after receiving South Korean secretary's insulin bottle. Han learns from her wife that Rim has diabetes. Afterward, Rim clarifies there's no intention to defect while injecting himself the insulin. Downstairs, Han's wife gives a mosquito coil for North Korean staff and offers them a drink and room to sleep, but Rim's wife respectfully declines them all. Meanwhile, South Korean counselor forges conversion certificates for all North Korean staff, but North Korean counselor catches him and burns all the finished certificates. Eventually, the two counselors fight and North Korean counselor loses since South Korean counselor is a trained man. Momentarily, both groups see the two counselors' intention. North Korean counselor reveals South Korean counselor's been doing. South Korean counselor reasons North Korean staff need to convert to prevent violating the national security law. Han clarifies there's no ongoing rebellion for them to convert North Korean staff. South Korean counselor then asks the purpose of protecting North Korean staff in the first place. North Korean counselor intervenes, announcing the police they hired abandoned them. So South Korean counselor explains the police charge per person, asking Han if they can afford it all. Later, Han apologizes to Rim about the conversion certificates on the balcony. Afterward, Rim, Han, and the two counselors discuss their plan. Han clarifies they're only working together to escape and not reunify the two countries. They end the planning with South Koreans going to the Italian embassy, while North Koreans are going to the Egyptian embassy. Rim, Han, and the two counselors on two different cars travel to their designated embassies at daybreak. In an intersection, a mob of rebels is idling on the road. The two vehicles immediately reverse their car to hide, when suddenly civilians crowd their car, asking for a ride. They drive forward when the rebels spot them, escaping rebels from shooting them. Once free, the two vehicles separate to head towards their diplomatic partners. Upon arriving, the two embassies end up with two different results. Rim fails to get help from the Egyptian embassy, while Han receives a plane ticket for all South Korean staff. However, North Koreans are not allowed since they're not Italians' diplomatic partners, so Han lies that North Korean staff converted to their side. Afterwards, South Korean counselor and Han remain in the Italian embassy, waiting for the Italian ambassador's following message. For Han, he wants both groups to live. Later, Han and South Korean counselor meet the Italian ambassador again, learning that the South Korean government officially requested the Italian government to assist them, implying that all Koreans have a secured slot on the evacuation plane. So they need to arrive at the Italian embassy before 4 p.m. and stand by. Han, Rim, and the two counselors return to the South Korean embassy with two new cars to accumulate everyone. Amidst the discussion, North Korean counselor thinks it's dangerous to go outside again and instead wants to wait. But South Korean counselor reasons they can no longer wait because it's a one-time opportunity. In the end, both groups agree to travel to the Italian embassy and catch the plane. The two groups eventually board the 4 cars after covering them with books and bags of dirt to defend themselves from bullets. They leave the embassy while the prayer plays on the speaker. It's 3:32 p.m. when the 4 cars arrive at checkpoint. South Korean counselor drives the first car and shows the guard his passport and letter. South Korean secretary raises their makeshift white flag, but the Somalia soldiers assume a firearm. Somalia soldiers then shoot the cars, causing the 4 vehicles to retreat immediately. While retreating, a Somalian soldier chases them around on a jeep with a machine gun. The car driven by North Korean counselor splits from the group to avoid the gunshots. Meanwhile, the 3 vehicles stumble upon rebels stealing from houses. Rebels throw fire on their cars, burning the books. Eventually, the 3 cars arrive near the Italian embassy. They leave their cars, run toward the Italian embassy gate, waving their white flags and shouting they are Koreans to the Italian military guarding the entrance. However, they don't let the 2 groups inside immediately. Eventually, the car driven by North Korean counselor arrives, chased by the Somalian soldiers shooting down the vehicle. They are requested to stop by the Italian military. For the first time, South Koreans, North Koreans, Somalian soldiers, and rebels stand on the same ground without tension. When everything's quiet, Han tells them they are Korean diplomats. Afterward, Han and South Korean counselor retrieve the ones left behind in the car. To their surprise, North Korean counselor is dead in his seat because he received all the gunshots during the chase earlier. At daybreak on the following day, the Italian government gives a burial service for North Korean counselor. Later, the two groups board the bus, traveling safely to the airport after the Italian government requested a temporary ceasefire. The two groups board on the evacuation plane, traveling to Kenya. One of the North Korean staff gives gratitude to South Korean counselor for helping them. It's because if the North Korean diplomats didn't return to Pyongyang, their children left behind in North Korea would become orphans. Han offers accommodation to Rim since they didn't have diplomatic ties with Kenya, but Rim replies they already talked to Pyongyang last night in the Italian embassy, who already arranged for the North Korean staff. Afterward, the Rim sincerely gives gratitude to Han. The movie ends with North Korean and South Korean staff landing at Kenya Mombasa Airport on January 12, 1991. Before leaving the plane, they share an embrace to one another, give thanks and big goodbyes because their countries both sent teams to accommodate them, and they cannot see the two groups associating with one another outside. The two groups leave the plane pretending they never know one another, and their respected teams welcome them. Eventually, the two groups ride their vans, heading in opposite directions. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.